Present.
Bobby Brown,
Present.
Joseph Fabian,
Present.
Jessica Martinez,
Here.
Joseph Sokolovic,
Present.
Chris Taylor, John Welvin,
Present.
and Joe Lombard present.
Is there a flag here? Okay. We're going to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay. No one has
Chair.
signed up?
I have point privilege before we start the meeting, please.
Okay.
I have a point privilege because we have 3 people passed away, and I know we don't have time to recognize these people. The name for the first one was Ms. Leola John. She was the PAC president of Plato School. She passed away June 26. The second person was Jamie Colon Rivera. He passed away September 2021. He was a driver for the school bus for Bridgeport School. Also, we have, that everybody know, a student from Sorrento High School. His name is Jamel Haydin. I'd like to have a minute silence for these 3 people, amazing people. They do a lot of job and they work very hard for our Bridgeport School, please. I need a minute of silence for that, please.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have one as well. A point of personal privilege. If we can just give our students a round of applause for joining us for their first meeting in a very long time. We hope you guys learn a lot. Thank you for joining.
So, we have approval of board minutes.
So move.
Second.
This
Oh,
is
you
the
want-
regular meeting of August 23rd, approving those minutes. Okay, any edits? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstained, Ms. Martinez abstains. Second is the special meeting of August 23rd, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Benahan, second by Ms. Allen. Any edits? All in favor?
Aye. Abstain.
Ms. Martinez abstains. Last special meeting on September 15th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Benahan, second by Ms. Allen. Any edits? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Same.
And Ms. Martinez and Mr. Lombard abstain. Chairman's report. I'm going to start off by acknowledging our student representatives here. As I say your name, I'd like you to stand up so we can all see who you are. From Bassick High School, today we have Ruth Cruz. From Bridgeport Military Academy, Angel Serrano. From Fairchild Wheeler, Arrow, we have Alina Khan and Dashanel Holness. And for Fairchild Wheeler IT, we have Avery Fletcher and Michael Hemmings. Okay. There are representatives also at Central High School, Fairchild Wheeler Bio and Harding, and one other at Bassick who is not here tonight. Whenever they next come here, we'll recognize their presence as well. You do? It's not marked off here. Which one? Letitia, okay. Letitia Prasad. Okay. So the point of you guys being here is to see how this process works at this level. I hope you learn a lot this year. We'll look to you for your thoughts in what you think of some of the things we deliberate here. And maybe some of the things that you say will sway a vote. So pay attention, enjoy, and learn a lot from this process. The next item is a staff recognition. Mr. Gustafson, are you here? So I'm just going to kind of briefly describe it. I don't presume to describe it as well as I think you would, but for anyone who's not aware, in the week before school reconvened, Mr. Gustafson did the usual email blasts, phone blasts, reminding people that, you know, it's time to come back to school and encouraging them to be on time. And he got an unusual response from one of his family's parents, explaining that, you know, they had gone to Afghanistan to visit family earlier in the summer. And as we all know, in the latter part of August, conditions in Kabul deteriorated very rapidly. And they were not sure if they were going to be back on time or if they'd be back at all. This spurred a chain of events that's a little complex to try to describe, but Mr. Gustafson found himself in the position of playing an integral part in facilitating communication between this family in Kabul and special ops forces that were working to try to extract them. And so over the course of the last week in August, it was a very tense time. There were phone calls and text messages at all hours of the day and night. And through Mr. Gustafson's efforts, this family was able to make it home to Bridgeport, safe and sound, all together and in one piece. So I'm going to read this. Presented to Brett Gustafson, principal of James J. Curiel School in Bridgeport, Connecticut. In recognition of service above and beyond that which is expected of the position of school principal during the week of August 22 to 28, 2021, through actions taken to facilitate the rescue and return to the United States of a Curiel School family trapped under fire in Kabul, Afghanistan. Your dedication to your students and families is a source of great pride to Bridgeport Public Schools and is the epitome of the district's slogan, every kid, every day, presented by the Board of Education. You look like you'd like to say something. So
I'll
I'm gonna
be
yield to
very,
you.
very short. I just want to introduce you to the Mazari family who were stuck in Afghanistan. And that brings me such joy to have them here back at Curiel School. And just thank you so much for this, but this is even more important to me, so.
Absolutely. We're going to take a little picture. Thank you. That concludes the chairman's report. Next on the agenda are committee reports and referrals. I don't think many, if any, committees have really met, maybe one or two. Ad hoc district-wide branding initiative.
There's no report, but we will be meeting next month on the 20th. Location to be determined, time is 6 to 9.
Here, I can't hear.
Her mic died. Okay.
It's the table mic. Choose this thing.
Yeah, but it's the battery died. So contracts committee met this past week. We have a couple of items that are on the agenda this evening. One is an issuance of an RFP and 2 are contract awards. We'll deal with those later on tonight. Are there any referrals? Okay. Educational diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We have not met, but as I prepare to depart, I would like to have one last meeting and maybe we can put together a commitment statement. I'll talk to Joe about that.
Okay. Facilities is going to meet on October 4th. We're going to have a presentation from the Facilities Department about the work they did to open schools this year, over the summer. Any referrals for facilities?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I still, I'm hoping that this meeting, I can have, Mr. Greg, the facility, come to talk about security. I know I'm still waiting for that for a few months, so I hope they can show up for this committee.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a referral. After having many conversations with some teachers, I know this has been a topic in the past, and I'm uncertain of what the solution would be. There are a few ideas, but I would like to discuss at facilities how we can either fix the heat in the schools during summer hours or start in a different time of the school year. The learning environment is just not conducive for the children, and it's not good for teachers. So I would like to have a good conversation. I will be there and see how we can, fix this, because they can't learn or teach in 90, 95 plus,
Okay.
degrees in the classroom. Thank you.
Okay. Finance?
The finance met last week. Got a couple of items coming up on the agenda, so I won't go into a full report. The
Okay.
next meeting will be October 13th, 2021 at Central, 6 p.m.
Okay. Any referrals? Okay, governance. Governance is scheduled to meet on October 4th. We have one item that we'll be discussing, and that is newly revised student handbook. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any referrals? Personnel met a couple of weeks ago, made some recommendations to Mr. Testani about a couple of principal positions. You want to announce what they were?
Sure. So the new principal at Park City Magnet is Deanna Chuka. Happy to announce, and Deanna has begun last week in her new role as principal. She was an assistant principal in Naugatuck for 12 years prior to coming to Bridgeport. And new assistant principal who will be starting next week at Fairchild Wheeler, Mr. Michael Kennedy. He is a seasoned 9-year veteran science teacher, and he's coming from Fairfield Public Schools.
All right, students and families.
Students and family, we meet September 23rd, 5 o'clock in Central High School in the library. If you all see, my agenda was very long because we was behind few items for 2 months before we go to vacation, but everything was very clear. We're gonna meet the next time, October 21, 2021. Oh, cool. And I will have a question later about this situation, about my item later to Mr. Testani in the report.
Okay. Any referrals? Teaching and learning?
Yeah, Teaching and Learning Committee met Tuesday as well. Some good news is we're able to reduce out-of-district placements by a significant number, was it 8? By 8, which if everybody's been following this for a long time, that hasn't happened in a very, very long time. We're also catching up on the backlog of IEPs caused by COVID, which is pretty good. Staffing is still an issue because we can't pay our staff to compete, and we're always going to be short-handed until we, as a district, get enough funding to adequately fund our schools and pay our teachers what they deserve. Next meeting will be Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 at 6 p.m. at Central Library, and we also got some items coming up on later in the agenda.
Okay. Any referrals? Now that we've gotten a little ways into this meeting, we have a new system here. Are you all able to hear us pretty well? Yeah? Okay. Good job, IT. All right, superintendent's report, Mr. Testani.
Thank you. Several items. I'd like to start with a few items of concern as we open the school year. I've worked over the last several months with our police chief, Garcia. There's been some losses to the SRO division based on sergeant being reassigned to the training academy, who's been an integral part of leading the SRO initiative over the last several years, which has been extremely successful in being able to support students and families. Our SROs did an amazing job throughout the pandemic, delivering food, work packets to families, helping locate and re-engage families and students that were on remote. That division has been decimated, and it's an area of concern right now. We are having additional discussions in how we can repair and really move forward for the start of the school year now that we're a month in. There's been a lack of communication from that division that had never occurred before under the new leadership, and it's just going to be a matter of time before there's a breakdown and possibility of a child being injured. So that is an area of concern that I have raised with the city and also then the police chief, and I just want to bring that to the board's attention as well. A couple other things that were mentioned by Mr. Sokolovic. There are some staffing concerns in the areas of paraprofessionals. As much as we've tried to close the gap in hiring over the last several weeks, HR has been extremely busy onboarding 30 new paraprofessionals. We are also experiencing some issues when it comes to teachers. We have about 55 teacher vacancies currently, a number in the area of special education, which is extremely concerning. I've had some conversations with the State Department of Education on some ways that we can help rectify the issue. There has been no solution offered, and there are some constraints as to being how we could be creative in trying to fill these vacancies, at least with a certified teacher, rather than a revolving door of substitutes. So if by the end of next week, a solution is not presented by the State Department of Ed, we may need to just take matters into our own hands to try to ensure that at least a certified educator is in front of children and not a substitute. Support staff are even more concerning when the areas of speech and language pathology and school psychologists. So we are working extremely hard with agencies in those areas to try to fulfill and contract out. And this is also true for our school nurses. So I will update you at every board meeting until these issues have been resolved. But there is no stone that we haven't tried to unturn in order to fill these vacancies to make sure that we have high quality folks in front of our kids. As Mr. Sokolovic mentioned, in terms of being able to retain, we lost a significant number of folks to other districts simply because of economics. This is more than just a matter of funding the school district adequately. I think there needs to be a solution, not only here in Bridgeport and the other urban towns, but also the rural towns who are being pillaged by the suburbans who are able to be more competitive in their salary and benefit packages. So I have reached out to Senator Chris Murphy's office, Jim Himes's office. I've spoken to Senator Marilyn Moore, Representative Philippe. We are trying to gather some support with the CEA, but there's been a little bit of a roadblock from the teachers union statewide perspective since they represent teachers across all districts. So I'm going to continue to reach out until a solution is found. I have a couple of ideas that I think will be viable solutions to this problem. But when we have an average of $10,000 difference in teachers' pay across the entire salary schedule, it's become more and more evident that we are going to continue to lose educators. 40% of our teaching staff or our certified staff are in their first 6 years.
What were some of those? Can you share any of those ideas of taking your hands?
Well, I think probably the best and easiest solution is direct payments to teachers, similar to loan forgiveness on student loans. If you work in an urban district upon graduation, you're able to verify that you work in an urban district or an alliance district. A direct payment twice a year, 4 times a year, however government would like to do this. directly to teachers in the amount of $10,000 would be extremely helpful, rather than if there's a distrust that it comes into the budget and over time we'll try to supplant or eliminate positions to cover money somewhere else. So I don't care how they do it. I think it needs to be done desperately. The other discussion we've been having, and I've also teamed up with another vocal school leader and Dr. Steve Perry from Capital Prep in trying to find a more conducive way to recruit and transition folks that could be teachers and educators into the profession. You know, we all know of and can identify paraeducators, coaches, and other folks that can teach, but the barriers to certification are just too great. And we're the only ones that are conforming because we receive state and federal dollars, whereas these folks can go, and they do go and teach at Catholic and private schools without any issues. So I think it's a two-pronged approach, trying to increase the pipeline into our cities and rural towns, the alliance districts of certified educators, but also then in order to retain top talent. When you have 40% of a large teaching staff in their first 6 years, and then another 32% at the top step, that just tells you that in the 10 steps in between, it's only 30% of our staff. So it's a little less than 30%.
So is that something legislatively working on as far as certification exceptions for inner city schools?
Well, that's the plan we're trying to put together, some exceptions, some easier routes. I mean, there are folks that want to teach that maybe are change of career, and because of some of the barriers in terms of what is needed to become certified, it's just too difficult for them to take the time at that stage in their lives to go back and get another master's degree. So we're trying to come up with some creative solutions to present to the State Department of Ed that they could consider, especially when we're facing such a challenge here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The Welcome Center, as everyone knows, was opened in early October. We've registered, and over 400 families have come through in less than 2 months.
Early September?
October is this week.
Oh, October's in the future. I'm sorry.
Don't rush it.
So in less than 2 months, we've serviced over 400 students, and their families have come through the center. We are also toying with the idea of becoming just a one-stop registration for all families in Bridgeport, but that's going to take a little bit more planning. We did not face some of the anticipated transportation issues that have been talked about a lot on the news. We do have some transportation issues that We Transport has been working out. Nothing out of the ordinary to the normal start of school, whereas some districts are really having some challenges. So I give a lot of credit to the folks that We Transport. Student Success Day is October 6th. That will be district-wide, where students will be working on their student success plans. And so that will be all students across the district will be working similar to what we did a day of coding last year, which we're hoping to do again through the Lieutenant Governor's office. The Student Success Day is October 6th. Read Aloud Day in our district, as much as people thought it would go away, it is alive and well. October 20th is Read Aloud Day. So if any of you folks are interested in reading to a class, please reach out to Joyce in Carly's office, and she will get you an assignment to read in a classroom on October 20th. September is, each month, as I sent out earlier to the board, each month is a different theme for social emotional learning. September has been respect and goal setting, and October will be anti-bullying. We will also make sure that the board receives the monthly newsletter that Lynn has issued so far for September, and will issue monthly coming from the Office of SEL. If you haven't been over to Tisdale School as a result of the unfortunate incident that occurred early in the summer, where the young folks that were playing baseball at Newfield Park in the Newfield Park Baseball League that's run by Wesley Payne, experienced an act of violence. I just want to give some credit out to a good friend of mine from Urbani Landscaping, Nick, and Mike from M&M Fencing, in conjunction with Craig Drisney, who built the new baseball diamond over at Tisdale School for the little leaguers to be able to participate in a safer environment. They are now in their third month in participating in the baseball field. That was all done free of charge. Donated time, donated machinery from, like I said, Nick from Urbani Landscaping, who is a good friend of mine, and Mike from M&M Fencing, who Mr. Garcia tapped on the shoulder and was more than helpful in the process. So, in terms of, we just negotiated a teacher incentive, attendance incentive for the year with the BEA to incentivize those teachers that through the pandemic will continue to have impeccable attendance over the course of this school year. So there is a first semester, second semester incentive where teachers, if with perfect attendance, can earn up to $2,250 additional for the school year. It is broken into two halves of the year, so you may not qualify in one, but you could qualify in the second. If your attendance is not exceeds 4 days or more in the first semester, you will not be qualified for the incentive in the second semester. So we're really trying to provide some incentive for teachers who do come regardless of pandemic or snow, whatever the case may be. Their dedication to their students is impeccable. Couple of updates from facilities, because I know it's been, we are ready on Friday to receive phase 1 of our air purification units. So many of you have heard or received the emails. We have installed almost every cafeteria is completed. A couple of more days, we'll have them all done. There are air purifiers that have been installed in all the cafeterias in all our schools. On Friday, we will receive our first shipment of the classroom air purification systems. That's about 700. The remaining units for our classrooms will be received on October 6th. That's the anticipated date. And then phase 3, all the offices in the district will be outfitted over the course of the week or two after that. So we should have air purification systems installed in every classroom, office, and cafeteria sometime by mid-October, I'm sorry. We are looking to, there's some lead time out in putting water filling stations first at our high school, so students can fill up water bottles throughout the day and have cold drinking water. Since COVID, we've had the water fountain shut down, and then we will look to, once we get an idea of what work is it takes to retrofit our current water stations for the filling stations, we'll begin to work backwards on our newer buildings in our elementary all the way through till they're all completed. And last but not least, I just want to raise everyone's attention. We've had a couple of incidents of vandalism in regards to some of this TikTok challenges that are being put out on TikTok. I'm sure the high school young ladies and young men know what I'm talking about. We haven't experienced anything like some of our neighboring districts have, but I just want to caution everyone that these are disruptive to the school day, and they cost and have a cost that is incurred when we have to replace damages that are done within our bathrooms and other parts of the building. So please, as you see, and just encourage your classmates that these TikTok challenges are not anything that's going to result in anything positive for them or for the building. And I'm just happy to report today the governor's vaccine mandate kicked in, and to a pleasant surprise, we had 85% of our bus drivers are fully vaccinated, and 10% more do have one shot and are anticipated to receive the next. So we will be at almost 95, 96% 100% compliance with our bus drivers. And the rest of our staff, as of today, only 354 folks are in testing protocol. 128 of those will drop off in the next few weeks because they've either received one shot or both shots and are waiting full vaccination. So this is just a testament to the folks here in the Bridgeport Public Schools and their commitment to keeping not only themselves, but their students and their families safe. And that will conclude my report for tonight.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Kolovec?
Yeah, quick question about the well-deserved teacher incentives, approximate costs and ESSER funds.
Yes, ESSER funds, approximate cost unknown based on history, not a huge amount. I think last year with perfect attendance, we had 31 teachers total with perfect attendance. If we went by the threshold here, it probably would have included about another 130. So the cost is minimal unless the impact is great, but it'll be worth every penny.
Absolutely. Got to count the beans, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Testani, I have a few things to tell you, and I know you said something about the police. I know we don't have SRO, around, and sometimes we need it. I know before, correct me if I'm wrong, that we had before 15. Now we have like a 5. And
We had 15 at one time. Last year, we had 9. And right now, we have allegedly, I have not really seen the impact, we have 3 assigned.
3. And what, I know we can bring it to facility meeting where we talk about that, but let's try to have this police officers back, because situation happen less than 1 minute, they can happen. We don't want the students or staff or parents, nothing happen. They don't want later they say, oh, the board education, this is the board education's fault when they remove it. So I just want to let you know for the record that we have to try to see if we can bring the SRO back, because they are the one, sometimes if they see they're in the east side, at the time they get a west side, look at what happened at Central High School, 26 minutes. Unless 1 minute something can happen. We cannot be waiting for that. Our cases are priority, that's why we're here. Our staff, parents, so we need to work with that, because we don't want, like I say, they said board education, this is the board education's fault. So I just want to bring it to you, because our kids are priority, everyone, but
I understand. The unfortunate part is I cannot assign police officers. That's the
No, I
chief's
understand.
job. And right now, she has not prioritized that as a priority. And she's trying to cover shifts apparently on patrol. So I will keep asking, I'll keep requesting, but there's really not much we can do beyond that.
All right. Other thing that the other day, Friday, I was in Teasdale School and helping some parents with PPT. It was amazing meeting, amazing staff, very professional. But I'm worried about the crossing guard, not crossing, the crossing. There, if you see front of the school, there's no cameras. People, they don't stop the stop sign. I stay there for 45 minutes. They don't care who's crossing. And I take my time crossing the street, and people pass next to me like they don't care. And there's no camera. Something happened because the cameras focus for the school. They don't focus to the street. So something happened. It's something, I know maybe we can talk in a facility or something like that, or I'll just let you know because I was there, and there's no camera for the police officers outside on a pole, and the camera for the schools focus for the school, not for the street. Something happened. It's very dangerous.
I was at Tisdale this morning. I see exactly what you're speaking about. I'm not sure that there's not a city camera somewhere.
Yeah.
I could ask Lieutenant Grech, he would know.
DOT.
So there could be a camera somewhere.
I've walked the whole post and there's no cameras. So I just want to let you know. Also, Mr. Testani, the same agenda, and I'm going to talk something brief, and I'm going to give you the question about the Pagan PTSO. I was a former PTSO in Bassett High School for 4 years. You know what I went through, and I fight to the end, and I never give up because my parents need me, my staff need me, right? Only 3 board members from here that helped me and tell me to support me a lot. That was Ms. Martinez, Mr. Joe Sutcliffe, and the former Mr. Hernan. They always support me because they want to remove me. There are a lot of things happen. My question for you is, what we're gonna do to be sure all these Pagan PTSO leaders, they do the job, They work very, very well, communication with the principals and the senior staff. They have to follow protocol and, and policy, we understand that. They would do it. But when the parents, the leaders feel not welcome, feel they don't want to work together, they don't want to work with the principal, whoever's in charge of the building, what are we going to do? Because I know from you said that let the PAC and PTSO do the job, let them know the principal, the date, and let's work together. Very nice, very successful. So I'm worried with that because I had the experience, and you know that what I went through, you know what they're trying to do. But thanks to my parents and the 3 board members I told you, they helped me to support me, to be sure I'm there for my parents. So when I go and the PAC leader call me, because I know what they're going through, they're trying to work very nice, work it together, great communication. But if there is no communication at all with the PAC and PTS from the school, what are we gonna do? So.
We do have
And it's a
two,
protocol, it's a policy. They understand, they will follow. But we need to support them because, Mr. Testani, you know that they give free time, the value time to be there for our parents and the staff. They want the best. So we need to respect that. We need to value that. So I to know you as the superintendent of school, let them know, let's work together and, everybody be on the same page.
we have 2 dedicated staff members that are there to support. Most recently, when a complaint was made by one of the PAC presidents, I personally went out to the school, and there are some inconsistencies to stories. That's why I went personally to make sure I can resolve the problem. It's going to be a process. I think that our principals want to work with our parent leaders. There's not a principal in the district that does not want to do that. I think just like any relationship, it takes time to develop. There are going to be new leaders, I'm sure, this year, especially after the year that was the COVID year.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we just give it some time, allow parents and principals to develop that relationship. And, communication is a 2-way street. So we have to ensure that not only are principals communicating with parents, but our parents are communicating appropriately with principals, because let's face it, I see a great principal sitting in the front row and a great parent leader right next, and that's a partnership that's developed over time. And if the parent leader has an issue or the principal has an issue, they're going to talk to each other. They're not going to feel as if they have to go around and go to a third party. If that's the last resort, I understand. But that can't be the first resort, because then that relationship is not built.
It's a process. I understand it's a process. But I told my leaders, you talk with the principal, he's the principal, he's in charge of the building. If you think you're not happy, that's why we have superintendent of the school.
Correct.
Very simple.
Well,
But I
hold
appreciate-
on, and I'm sorry, this is not a topic that I should harp on, but I think also proper training for parents. I think if they understand
Sure.
their role and
Yep.
what they should and shouldn't be doing, or that's a true partnership with principals and teachers, they're not the owners of the building. They are not to go in there, and disrupt or dictate. They should be partners. It's all a help, but I think that the partnership is incredible. It's been incredible for us, all of our parenting.
That's why they're
lives.
trying to have a
But they
Thursday
need
pack, they'll
training.
get
A
trained.
lot of them
That's a good
don't
point.
know. And so when you get properly trained, or the parent leadership institution is incredible. PLTI, I'm a graduate, you're a graduate. It's an incredible situation. It's empowering for parents.
And also, Mr. Destani, just to let you know, for the record, I have to say thank you to Dr. Jenkins, Dr. Morgan, Dr. Black, and Mr. Plana for always helping me with the parents. When it's a process, if something happens in each situation, I will call you, email you. I'd like to say thank you so much for helping my parents. You guys are amazing, and we're so, happy to have you, and, you resolve the problems for my parents. I really appreciate that so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
That's it, Mr. Chair, no more questions.
Oh, did you have something?
You can go.
No, I was just gonna ask if we could check in with our student reps to see if they had anything.
Oh,
to
they
add.
do. They're prepared. Right, Lali?
Okay, hang on. Did you have your hand up?
Yeah, my question was for Mrs. Hestani. I know that we have transitioned into this new school year. I know we did surveys, to figure out what was going on with parents and students and stuff like that. has there been any talk of the new transition with everyone now that we're back into school? And is there any updates on that? Parents need support, children need support, any of that we can?
Yeah, we've been
support?
working through some, I guess, sensitive issues where there are some safety concerns. They have not been widespread. I can say that there are some parents that have had some concerns regarding sending children back to school. But I think overall, we've been able to work through most of those concerns and try to ease parents' anxiety. It's a difficult time. The news doesn't help us.
It doesn't.
And what's being reported on the news. And I think some of the information that's put out on social media doesn't help situations. But I can tell you it's been great to see students back in the building. This morning at Central High School, I started my day seeing kids come in, then over to Dunbar and Tisdale. And it seems like, kids are happy to be back. And as you can see from our staffing vaccination rates, that has really eased their minds that they can come to work and be able to provide teaching, learning, and support to their students without having to worry about some of the things that they obviously had to worry about pre-vaccination.
Awesome. And just to add to, was something I was going to talk about with the district-wide branding committee. I know that a lot of parents really were supported via the survey, but also from your hopping on Facebook and addressing them. Is that something that, and I know you're busy, it doesn't have to be every week, but is there something where we can see you?
Yes.
And see parents, because it was a good opportunity
Yes.
for them to ask the questions that they may
So-
not show up to a meeting to ask.
So starting in October, we will begin weekly, initially weekly, and then see as necessary Facebook Live interactions with the superintendent again.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Also, Mrs. Stanley, today, John Winthrop School, they have an open house. The staff was there, the principal was there, the PAC president, it was amazing. A lot of parents show up. So it was very turnout today before I come to the meeting. It was good. It was very nice.
Okay. Do you folks have anything you'd like to talk about?
Come on, guys, we're ready for your question. Let's go.
Turn your mics on. Press the button.
I didn't have anything.
Okay, yes, you don't
I
have
was like
to,
really
but
listening. I don't want to say stuff that I'm not educated about, I want to make sure I have stuff to back me up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I want to say.
Okay.
I don't have anything to say. Sorry.
That's fine.
all right.
That's fine.
Anyone else? Or you all
Anything
kind
to
of
say?
think the same?
I have a question.
Okay.
He was talking about SRO, and I was wondering what really.
SRO is a
School resource officer.
It's a police officer who's
That's
been
it.
specially trained
Yeah.
to deal with students.
Do you know who they are in your school?
Well, they weren't in the
No.
buildings. They were patrolling outside so that you had safe passage to and from school.
Before was.
They were also very helpful if there was an incident inside a school. They knew how to respond. Since 2012, with the SROs that have been allocated from the police department, we have been recognized not only statewide but nationally for our reduction in school arrests. Because as Mr. Weldon mentioned, the training they have received allows them to come into a school and diffuse a situation, deal with a student in an appropriate manner, and not just throw the handcuffs on, drag them out like they used to years ago, put them in the car and take them to the juvenile detention center. So it's been a huge loss because these are some of our officers that have built relationships with you guys and your families. Some have left for other departments, unfortunately, because they were being reassigned and they sought other employment and were grabbed quickly. And some are just been redeployed to patrol. But so it's a disappointment because they know how to react in a situation with young folks and families and work with schools. And they're not just typical patrolmen who just come to the school and treat it as if it's a criminal investigation.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got another one.
Okay?
So she was talking earlier about the heating and stuff that's going on in the schools. And from my experience, I've been at 2 schools specifically where I've had that experience where you have heating. And I was wondering, like, what is the procedure and steps that you guys are gonna take furthermore?
So I'm gonna need you to say that again.
I didn't hear the
So
question.
she was saying that she experienced the heat that I was speaking of in the classroom, and what is the steps to take? So I referred it to the facilities committee meeting, which is on October 4th. I'm gonna go on a little tiny tangent. I really envisioned all of you students picking some committees where you would want to engage and learn from there. I think there'd be a lot of interaction, and where the board members, I'm gone in November and I'm not rerunning, but I'm still, my son is a Bassick High School student, so I'm still here. But I would envision you getting on to a committee, and that's where you can engage and we can learn from you and give, you know, kind of fulfill needs if there is, and you can learn from us. But that is where we're going to discuss it. I was texting the director of facilities, and he already has some solutions. So it goes to the director of facilities, and George Garcia is amazing. I'm quite sure we're going to come up with some conclusions.
So you have to understand there are some parameters. So the school year has to be a certain length.
Right.
And so you're either going to get some warm days at the beginning of the school year if we decide to start earlier, so you end earlier, or the other opportunity that can be presented is
Losing
eliminate vacations during the school year, which, you know, becomes tricky as well.
Or we can engage for grants and donations and possibly get every school air conditioned. But that's a long shot. So
And that's all the stuff that would be talked about in the facilities committee. So that's going to be on October 4th. If you're interested in that, we would hold that meeting at Central High School in the library. Okay.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. I have a question. So this pertains to Fairchild in general, but I was wondering if we could open the snack bar again, which it would create, because now at Fairchild, all schools eat at the same time. So the lines are ginormous. So I think the snack bars would lessen down the lines, and also they would be prepackaged foods. So it's all safe for COVID wise. Everybody wears masks, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And also it's money that goes right back to the school or back to the food in general.
So I was not aware that the snack bars were not reopened yet. We will get on that to hopefully have those open for Monday,
Yay,
There you go.
thank you.
just to allow for
You just
some.
made an impact.
look at that.
I'm gonna shoot for Monday. I'm not sure if the items sold in the snack bar can be ordered and received by Monday.
Yeah.
But as soon as they can be ordered and received, the snack bar can reopen.
Thank you.
Here we go.
There you go. All right. So, the way this works, I'll just explain it to you. We have 2 categories, old business, new business. New business is just that, new. In this scenario, let's say our first item is an agreement with Footsteps to Brilliance. Do you guys have a copy of the agenda?
Yes.
If we couldn't come to a conclusion of this tonight, we would move it to old business and pick it up the next time. So there's nothing left over from the past in old business, so we're going to move on to new business, and the first item is discussion and possible approval of agreement with Footsteps to Brilliance for online literacy program. So someone here to present this, Mr. Stein?
Well, Anna is here from Footsteps as a representative.
Come to the podium.
Just to give everyone that was not at the committee meeting some background, in some discussions with my colleague, Dr. Michael Connor from Middletown Public Schools, just having some discussions about the impact over the last couple of years that Footsteps to Brilliance has had on early literacy in his district, as we all know, is a critical component to the academic success of all students. He has seen tremendous gains. The beauty about Footsteps is that we are going to create an innovation city here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The goal is not just to give access to our kids in the Bridgeport Public Schools to the program, but any child in Bridgeport will have access to the program, regardless if they go to a Bridgeport Public School, charter school, Catholic school, private school, or they're not in school yet at all. And that doesn't increase the cost to us as a district. It's an app downloaded to any device, Android, computer, tablet, iPhone, whatever. And to utilize the program, it does not require connectivity. Any use when not connected to the internet, because they do gather a lot of data and will provide us with that data on usage, will be uploaded to their system once that device gets connected to the internet the next time. So it is a extremely unique program, but also extremely effective program. So I'm hoping that after it came out of teaching and learning unanimously now to the full board, that we can approve that tonight. And so if you have any questions, particularly outside of the overview, Anna's here to help facilitate that.
Yeah, this material was given to everybody in their package. Okay. All right. Let the record reflect Dr. Fabian has to the meeting. So this material was given to you guys in your packet. And do you have any questions for Anna?
Any questions? Yes, hi.
So you were saying that mostly get right on the hospital.
Is your?
Yes, so, oh, yes. So as Superintendent Testani was describing, we envision creating a model innovation city where every student that's born and lives in Bridgeport, before they even enter your school system, whether it be a community-based organization pre-K or a school pre-K, we would like to gift parents the opportunity to actually start and engage their students with rich literacy at home. So as I hear, as I'm sitting here in the audience, I know that community building is very big for Bridgeport. And a part of doing this model innovation city is bringing everyone in the community together. We also, last week during our presentation, showed how the police can collectively do this, and they can have the app on the back of their business cards. So the interaction with the police officers in Bridgeport and students are now positive. Going back to what John Weldon was saying about the special police officers that come into the school are trained, so that relationship is built. There's so many different aspects of using this model innovation city that it just bridges the gaps that are lost, because we really, are trying to catch up from that literacy loss up to 3rd grade, but also bring in our parents and our communities.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sure.
Now, you guys said tablets and everything. How are they going to be able to get on the internet? Like, are you guys going to supply?
You don't need the internet to get on. That's.
No, not internet, but like, how are they going to do this?
The device.
We are a one-to-one device district now. You can put it on your phone. You can put it on any device. So students will have access no matter where they're at.
So what I'm saying is you have, like, I'm always in the community, and I witnessed throughout COVID, a lot of parents do not have, believe it or not, they have one cell phone. If you have multiple children, how are you guys going to make that available to them? I get it, I like the program, but again, now you have to look at it, okay, who can afford access to the internet? Or a lot of people can't afford.
Right, so we are a one-to-one device district now, so we will provide the device. So as your child has their iPad, we're going to start with pre-K, and we're going to start rolling up slowly. Those in the community sites that are currently enrolled in pre-K will also get a device to utilize. And then those folks that are not Bridgeport Public School or community-based sites, that is an option that is out there for all parents, whether to put on their one phone or their one device where their child can spend some time on the program.
I know Department of Social Services is also giving out.
Oh, excellent. So with those devices, they're part of the Bridgeport package where they can download the apps. And then once they lose Wi-Fi, if they're home and they don't have Wi-Fi, students can continue using this application. Once they get back into a hotspot, all of that data that Superintendent Tassani was talking about gets uploaded, so the students are not redoing any types of activities and getting bored. But what we also can do is we can create community centers where going to McDonald's, and they can have a McDonald's hour or so to use their Wi-Fi, a part of this community initiative. There are many ways, and Footsteps to Brilliance has been doing this nationally, so we have different options, and we look forward to working with you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No?
I have a question. Is it going to be available to Bridgeport Public Libraries? I know it's a separate board, but I mean, that's one way for kids to have access to it. And if so, will it be available at the same time as the school?
Absolutely. I envision every student having access to it, and I'm very happy that you mentioned that about the libraries, because the app actually has thousands of books on the application where students can use and utilize, so it's a perfect fit for using it in the library.
Has it been presented to the library board to be available?
No, this is going to be purchased by Bridgeport Public Schools. Once it's finalized, it will get pushed out citywide. How the marketing of that becomes done is still up for discussion with the folks from Footsteps to Brilliance. And then, so again, we're trying to create an innovation city here and give access to all parents for their children.
But we can plan that in, as Superintendent Tassani mentioned.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion?
I will. I make a motion that we step into an agreement with Footsteps to Brilliance for online literacy program. There you go.
Second by Ms. Martinez. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
All set. Next is discussion possible approval to issue a solicitation for athletic training services. Who's here for this?
No, Mr. Denton is here.
Mr. Denton is here.
You guys need hard copies?
I've seen it. I was at the committee meeting.
I have hard copy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Denton.
Thank you.
It is a standard RFP through the city, just to obtain a contract to provide athletic trainers at each of the 3 high schools for the sports teams.
Okay.
This is critical because we are under, our contract last year expired because of COVID. We really had little time. So we are on a temporary agreement with the former training services until January. So with your approval, we're going to go put the RFP out and see how many folks respond to it. The current provider of athletic trainers is struggling to be able to cover all 3 schools for athletic events. We're hoping that we can find a provider, even if it's at an increase in cost, that can cover all 3 schools for all sporting events, practices and such, because right now we have limited coverage and that person would have to bounce around. Or we do have some supplementary coverage, like for example, Friday night at the soccer game, Bassick soccer game against Immaculate. We had an ambulance on site for any injuries that may have occurred, but they're not there to treat some of the minor things that an athletic trainer would be able to treat and under the contract. So we want to get this out and hopefully are able to solicit someone that can provide adequate coverage during the course of the the contract.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. This is, again, this is just to solicit. The actual recommendation for award will come back in the end. So I'll seek a motion to issue solicitation for athletic training services as presented in this RFP.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Allen, second by Ms. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Go ahead. Mr. Jack.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible approval of contract with Access Educational Services Incorporated to provide after-school program at Classical Studies Magnet Academy. State your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Davis. I'm the principal of Classical Studies. We are seeking approval for our contracts for two of our community-based organizations that we partner with. Funds come from an extended school hours grant, and part of that money goes right back into investing in our community partners. So Access is one partner that we've been working with for several years. They provide Lego League Junior services to our second graders. And they're also building on that program, but I'll speak about that when we talk about the Carver contract. So we're looking to partner with Access again and provide programming for our second graders through the extended school hours grant.
Questions? Want to make a motion to enter into this agreement?
So moved.
Some,
Moved by Ms. Martinez, second by Ms. Brown. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next is similar agreement, discussion possible approval of contract with the Carver Foundation to provide after-school program at Classical Studies Magnet Academy.
Okay, so I should say also that last year we were able to have a virtual program. This year we're doing it in person again. We're really excited to provide that opportunity for our families again. Carver Foundation, we started partnering with a few years ago, and they actually take our grant funding and they supplement it. They do fundraising so that we can bring more funds to that program. This is for 3rd through 6th grade. And we work with a lot of other community-based organizations like the Maritime Aquarium. We provide programming such as karate and lacrosse and cooking, so many different kinds of things as part of that program. We also offer academic support, which I think will be key this year. We have an hour of academics to start that program and then an hour of enrichment activities, and those are based on choice. So we're looking to partner with Carver again to bring those opportunities to our 3rd through 6th grade students.
Okay. Questions?
No, both are in person.
Oh, I got mixed up with the other one.
It was virtual before.
It was virtual before.
Oh, it was. All right, is there a motion to enter into this agreement with the Carver Foundation?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Benahan. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible approval of FY 2021-2022 operating budget. Who's here to talk about this?
I don't know if Ms. Siegel's still available.
I'm available.
Oh, there she is.
Here we are, virtual Marlene. All right,
Are you ready?
Yes.
we're ready.
All right, good evening to everyone. In regard to the 21-22 budget, I believe you'll recall that the target number in order to balance was $17 million. There are 4 components in order to cover this $17 million. The 4 components are state and city revenue, grant revenue, the internal service fund, and deficit prevention mode. So I'll speak briefly about each of those components. State revenue, in terms of an additional allocation to the Alliance grant, is about $1.5 million. City revenue is $2 million for a grand total of additional revenue, state and city combined, of $3.5 million. The next component is grant revenue, which would include such grants as Title I, the CARES Act, and other grants where we are able to charge, in accordance with the guidelines, various services that are within our strategic plan and our in compliance with the guidelines. And that component is approximately $2 million. So for state and city revenue, we have about $3.5 million, grant revenue about $2 million. Grand total so far would be $5.5 million. The next component is the internal service fund, and that component consists of about $9.5 million. And I'm going to explain the various components of the $9.5 million in a moment. And the fourth component is deficit prevention mode, which I've discussed on many occasions. And deficit prevention mode incorporates strict cost control and management, which we have practiced in every year for the last 10 years. And it also includes the savings that are derived when there are vacancies that are covered by substitute staff as a result of not being able to hire either quickly or higher qualified certified staff in the case of teacher positions. So we capture those savings, we accrue those savings, and in that way we build reserves and maintain control, balance the budget. So that component is projected at this point at approximately $2 million. So in summary, state and city revenue total about $3.5 million, grant revenue at least $2 million, the internal service fund $9.5 million, and deficit prevention mode approximately $2 million. And with those four components combined, we have a balanced 2021-22 budget. Now, before I conclude, I just want to come back to the internal service fund. I think it's important for everyone to understand that we have been carrying forward $2 million, which is the pre-2018-19 pre-Connecticut partnership funding amount. And that was a $2 million surplus that was in the ISF, in the Internal Service Fund, prior to 2018-19. And fortunately, we have not needed to use those funds to balance our budget in subsequent years, and therefore that $2 million is still in the fund. Last year, at the end of fiscal year 20, not 21, but the year before, fiscal year 20, the first pandemic year, we deposited in the Internal Service Fund at the end of 1920, $6.5 million. And so we carried forward throughout the 2021 fiscal year, the year that just ended, carried throughout that year, total of $8.5 million. Fortunately, we did not need to draw on those funds in 2020-21. Those funds are still deposited in the Internal Service Fund. And at the end of 2021, result of prudent fiscal management and funding that we had, as well as reduced spending levels across all categories as a result of the pandemic, we deposited in the Internal Service Fund savings of approximately $11.7 billion. And so in the Internal Service Fund, currently, year 2021-22, we have a grand total of approximately $22 million. Of that $20 million, $9.5 million is currently committed to balancing the 21-22 budget, to closing the 21-22 gap. It's also important to understand that this is a projection, and so we may not need $9.5 million to close the gap as we move through the year. We may need 9 million, perhaps we'll need only 7 million. It could be lower than 7 million or higher. It's not possible to predict at this year. I do believe, based on current trend, which change, that most likely will be more than we have, and I'm optimistic that it's going to be lower. We are going to utilize all of our grant funds, including the ESSER funds, to the maximum extent possible, wherever appropriate and permissible to do so, in accordance with the guidelines, to help offset various expenses that are part of our strategic plan. And so when we have a need in the technology area, for example, new devices or cases for those devices, for new lithium boards, instead of utilizing our standard operational resources, we are utilizing the ESSER resources because they are designed for the technological needs that we have arising out of the pandemic. So that's an example how we're going to continue to utilize our ESSER funds, meet all of the needs arising from the pandemic, and strengthen our infrastructure as we emerge after the 3-year cycle ESSER funding with a much stronger foundation. Are there any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
Joe.
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, I just want to, can you point out the danger of using the ESSER funds to cover some of our operating costs and explain a little bit about the fiscal cliff and structural deficit we're facing?
Well, I didn't say we're using ESSER funds to cover operating costs. I said we're using ESSER funds always in accordance with the guidelines governing ESSER funding. There are situations that arise where if we didn't have ESSER funding, we would have to use our operating budget.
Absolutely.
I understand. We had to replace computer devices at this time, and we did not have any ESSER funding, we would have to utilize our existing resources. But ESSER funding allows for services that address the digital divide and strengthen a district's technological infrastructure, so that learning can be enhanced through use of technology on a sustained basis.
Absolutely. All right, let me rephrase that question then. But for ESSER funds being used in this allowable way, what would our deficit be this year and how much cuts would we have to make? The chief of balance budget.
Yes, so we're using $9.5 million from our internal service fund to balance the budget. When we utilize funding from the internal service fund, if we actually have to use that amount, those funds are not going to necessarily replenish, and so there would be a gap of that amount in subsequent years.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll seek a motion to approve the 21-22 operating budget as presented by CFO.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martinez, second by Ms. Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Last on the agenda is discussion possible approval. You can stick around if you want, or if you've got better places to be.
Well, ready to go?
Past their bedtime.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
We can go. Yeah.
What?
Yes. They all have reports and are prepared to speak about the good. So why are you texting?
Okay, hang on. We have one last item, discussion and possible approval to pool ARP and ESSER funds with City of Bridgeport through Joint Youth and Education Committee. Mr. Tristani?
Yes, sir. So I was approached by city officials prior to our application being right before the submission for the ARP ESSER application to the state. The state had created some buckets that they were going to utilize to put out RFPs in different areas, one of them being youth. They asked if we would match funds at that time in order to broaden the use of those dollars across community agencies that could provide support to kids here in Bridgeport. I thought it was a great idea, since one of the requirements of ARP ESSER is to involve community-based agencies to provide services to support students' learning, social emotional growth, and different physical activities as well. Given the fact that a lot of these agencies can provide the services, not only that, what they do currently, they are and have the capacity to expand if the funding was available. And they also do a much better job in some cases, because that is their area of expertise. They also have lower operating costs in many cases for us to run a program that involves trying to find teachers, number one, that will work the program, and then following the contractual obligations in terms of the hourly rate, and then being able to monitor, gather data. We just don't have the capacity in all instances. So it was brought to the board to do that. Since then, the city has, because of the overwhelming response to the RFP, and at first glance, some of the amazing proposals that were submitted, they have upped their dollar amount to $3.5 million per year over the course of the 3 years. Not asking us to match, but to maintain a $2 million commitment. That would provide $5.5 million a year to be able to award grants to the RFP on the submissions from these community-based agencies. So we did present that at the Finance Committee. It has been brought before the full board. I think this is a great opportunity, not only to collaborate with the city, but also to involve many of our community-based agencies in being able to support kids through the programs that they offer.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, I'll seek a motion to approve pooling district ARP and ESSER funds with the city of Bridgeport through the Joint Youth and Education Committee.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Benahan, second by Ms. Martinez. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that concludes the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Allen,
Second.
second by Mr. Benahan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
How do you wear it so light? It doesn't, you have to wear it at work?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
gotta wear a full bodysuit at work.
Oh, that's right, so this is nothing for you.
Plus I stepped outside when they were doing my agenda items. I didn't have to hear it again, so I went outside.
I don't want that crap.
It's sensitive, yeah.
Giving the.
So we just adjourned the meeting.
I know.
Yeah. So